Morning. I hope everybody's well. My name's Mark Flynn, and welcome to Bedrock's webinar entitled Discover the Best Way to License Microsoft Teams for Your Business. Today, we're going to focus on the Microsoft 365 SKUs and their core components, the Office apps, security, and how best to license them. Now, for any questions you might have, please post them in the Q&A top right-hand side of the screen, and we'll make sure we'll address as many as we can today, but most certainly follow those up post the event. Now, it'd be wrong of me not to say something about Bedrock. So let me briefly say a few words. Now, we exist to help our clients become the best they possibly can by using technology in smarter ways. Today, we'll introduce Workplace 2021 and its core components of Teams for your collaboration, Microsoft Voice to replace your traditional telephony system, and cybersecurity so you can, with peace of mind, secure your post-COVID world. Now, we believe being smart goes beyond buying into and using a bunch of new technology. It is all about making sure that investment you are making actually helps you deliver on your business goals. So to make sure this is achieved, we work on the premise what gets measured actually gets done. For example, providing the dashboards that tells you how the business of IT is supporting the business, be that measuring the effectiveness of your IT spend, the security of your business, or the productivity of your people. Take, for example, the productivity of your people. Identifying where the hotspots of Teams usage is, which teams are using video the most, so you can start asking what value is your organization getting from Teams and what changes, what nudges you should be making on your people and on your teams to improve how they're working. Let's move on to Workplace 2021. The current IT strategy many organizations have isn't fit for purpose because the post-COVID office will be very different to the pre-COVID office. The big question is, can you take advantage of your COVID-19 experience of the last 6 months and become a successful, thriving, hybrid 100% or 100% remote business, rather than simply continue to muddle through using the stuff that you've picked up, but continuing to work in those ways you've always operated. Now, the opportunity is obvious. Your people working remotely can save you 60 to 80% of your office costs. You can recruit from a larger talent pool, and you'll hold on to your better people for longer. So fundamentally, the post-COVID workplace has to move on from the focus of the office to everywhere, be that the home, collaborative workspaces, mobile, even if you're on holiday, and yes, continuing when you visit the traditional head office kind of locations. Now, this new post-COVID IT strategy we call Workplace 2021. Now, I'd like to spend a couple of minutes introducing 3 core components of Workplace 2021: Teams, Microsoft Voice, and cybersecurity. Now, Teams doesn't need any introduction. We've all had those aha moments during COVID when we've realized the true value of Teams. Now, unfortunately, many of the organizations I talk to are just muddling through, just using it for chat, carrying on in the way they've always worked, are not using the true value it offers to really maximize the productivity of your people. So if I can ask you to do just one thing, that would be to attend our Teams webinar on the 22nd of September, where we'll drill down into collaboration and co-authoring, those key features you really need to know more about. Let's touch briefly on Microsoft Voice. We have a webinar on the 29th of September that specifically focuses on Microsoft Voice. So again, it'd be great if you can attend that. But in summary, what Business Voice ultimately does is it replaces your existing telephone system delivering all your traditional phone services via Microsoft Teams, integrating your traditional calling with the functionality that you get in Microsoft 365. As a result of Microsoft Voice, your calling capabilities, chat, and meetings are now unified in Teams. Now, Microsoft Voice works wherever you work, on whatever device you're working on, be that your PC, your smartphone, or more traditional desk phones. This really does suit our new hybrid way of working, be that home office or mobile, providing calling capabilities via the Teams app wherever I am. Let me bring the mood down a little with a cautionary tale. Very recently, a good friend of mine that works as the Chief Operating Officer at a 60-user city firm, as a result of their experience of COVID, decided that he didn't need that expensive West End office and handed the keys back to their landlord for the 2,500 square foot of expensive West End office space, and instantly become a 100% remote business, realizing all the savings that come with zero office space. The CEO at the time said, we've realized that working from home isn't such a bad thing. In fact, we're seeing better productivity. Now, unfortunately, within months, they fell foul to a major cyber attack, which resulted in a substantial financial loss to the business, with cyber attackers simply redirecting a substantial amount of company cash to another bank account. Essentially, someone got in through a blatant phishing attack, getting hold of a user's credentials, and then sitting in Office 365, watching emails come and go, looking for an opportunity to defraud them. As part of a business transaction, money was to be wired to a bank account on the Monday. They rang the bank and said, has the money been transferred? And the bank said, no, we haven't seen it. When they dug into this a little and spoke to the solicitors who wired the account, the feedback was they didn't wire it to that specific account because you told us to wire it to the account in China. In this case, Barbara, not a real name, in the finance department received and opened a spear phishing email, fooling her into providing her username and password. The attacker then sat in Barbara's Office 365 account waiting for anything juicy to come along. The attacker saw this pending transaction and set up mail forwarding rules to grab Barbara's email without her being aware of it. They changed the bank details to a Hong Kong account and sent that email on to the solicitors. Bang, the fraud is done. So during this session, I'll go into some detail around how you can securely lock down your post-COVID workplace using key features available in Microsoft 365. Let's change gears and talk about the Microsoft 365 SKUs. This slide, let's bring the rest of it up. This slide might seem a little simplistic, but to me it clearly outlines the value proposition of Microsoft 365 compared to Office 365. On the left, we have the Office applications of Office 365 and additional cloud services such as Exchange Online, SharePoint and Teams. Now on the right is the Microsoft 365 proposition, which is defined as the Office apps, plus advanced security, plus device management. Today, we're going to focus on Microsoft 365 Business Premium, E3 and E5 SKUs because these SKUs are best suited for the new post-COVID workplace 2021 world. What you've got here is a Microsoft security graph which highlights what Microsoft is doing every day. Things like analyzing 6.5 trillion threat signals and 470 billion emails. What Microsoft is doing is aggregating all this data to make the security of its products a lot better. Further to that, let's bring this slide up. I think this really does capture Microsoft's focus on security, which is so important. Microsoft are literally investing billions in security and aim to be the market leading security vendor in the next year or so. You can see on this slide that Gartner has named Microsoft Security a leader in 5 of their key security magic quadrants. Now, I like this next slide. I like it a lot because it highlights the 5 touch points of the user, device, application, email and documents where you'll potentially have vulnerabilities within your business. Now let's start with the user. You need to protect your business against an incident where one of your users has their credentials, the username and password compromised. Passwords are the weakest link in security chain, and without any additional verification, an absolute single point of failure. That's why we believe strongly that if you only do one thing to help protect yourself and your business, it should be to turn on multi-factor authentication, or MFA, which can prevent 99.9% of all identity attacks. Using features such as multi-factor authentication allows an additional layer of defense against attackers. You could go even further by using features such as conditional access and risk-based conditional access, which provide that additional layer of protection against attackers above and beyond MFA. Using conditional access, for example, you can enforce access controls based on the location, the user, the device, or their apps. For example, you could create a policy that requires MFA when someone attempts to log in from a country in which you don't do business, or restrict access if a user is logging in from an unrecognized and potentially compromised device. Now, moving on to the device, the rise in BYOD has led to customers needing to protect their corporate data on personal devices. What happens, for example, if a user's personal device is lost or compromised because they have a weak PIN, for example? Now, how do you prevent corporate data from being copied into personal or third-party applications? Features in Intune prevent data being copied from managed applications into personal applications and forcing users to save corporate data into their OneDrive for Business folders. Now, moving on to email. Over half of cyber attacks are caused by malware through email, and those email attacks are only getting ever more sophisticated. Now, a combination of user education, you can't get away from that, and implementing advanced threat protection, which tests links and attachments before a user clicks on them, warning them if malicious content is detected, and detecting emails from spoofed email addresses, for example, really is very important. Finally, let's talk about how protecting documents through classification at point of creation can help with accidental emailing of key classified data. How many of you have emailed the wrong document to the wrong person? I think we can all think of 1 or 2 occasions either you or a colleague has done that. It's slightly embarrassing, but if that document has classified corporate data in it, it could be damaging as well. If the document is classified internal at the point of creation, even if the document is sent externally by email, it cannot be viewed. Taking yourself through these 5 layers of security and making sure you're tackling each of them will help you manage your post-COVID, that flexible way of working you want to introduce. It'll allow you to, with peace of mind, manage that world much better. So what we're going to do now is touch on each of these features. Let's start with user-based security. A user's identity is a potential attack vector. Microsoft Azure Active Directory reduces that threat by enabling you to require multi-factor authentication that prevents attackers from using a compromised password to access accounts. Now, Azure AD also allows you to specify conditional access to accessing those accounts. And risk-based conditional access uses machine learning to determine the validity of a user's request to access some systems. For example, if the user logs in the UK and then 5 minutes later logs in from a different country, machine learning will make an assumption that the user cannot travel that distance in that time and enforces MFA or just plain refuses access. MFA and conditional access are part of the Microsoft 365 SKUs. Risk-based conditional access is included in the E5 SKU and in the Azure Active Directory Plan 2 add-in. Let's look at device-based security. Intune is all about mobile device management, enabling device management 3 key areas: data control, device level security, and restriction of applications. Now, data control enables separation of corporate data from personal data, allowing just corporate data to be removed, for example, from a device if a user leaves the organization. Now, device level security allows you to enforce device encryption, PIN requirements, that device is kept up to date and is not a jailbroken device at that. Now, restriction of applications ensures corporate data can only be used and stored within corporate managed applications and not copied into third-party applications. All of this resonates very well with our Workplace 2021 model, with increasing remote work and use of BYOD devices. The ability to manage people is difficult enough when you're in the office, but when everybody's disparate, it becomes such a much bigger problem. Hence why Intune is so fundamental to managing that disparate world. Now, Intune is included in Microsoft 365 Business Premium, E3 and E5 SKUs. Let's move on to email-based security. Now, these stats are super scary. And what I want to talk about is how you can use advanced threat protection to mitigate them. Advanced threat protection is included in the Microsoft 365 Business Premium SKU. Advanced threat protection works in a number of ways, but the 3 key areas to focus on are safe links, safe attachments, and spoofing. Now let's look at this real-life example here of where you might get an alert to say that somebody that is not associated with your organization and therefore could be a risk. You can see that advanced threat protection has detected that this is a spoofed email and is warning the recipient that the email might be someone impersonating someone else in the organization. In this case, advanced threat protection is using machine learning to analyze past email patterns and relationships to find anomalies that indicate spoofing is occurring. Secondly, we have safe links. And as we hover over the link, you can see that the login link for Office 365 isn't actually the portal login page, but likely a malicious page which is collecting users' credentials. Now, advanced threat protection doesn't just protect email. It does the same for Teams. For example, if you allow guest users to use your Teams tenant, you want to protect your business from threats introduced through these guest accounts. Here we can see someone has posted, let's bring that up, someone has posted an important document that needs to be signed allegedly. When we click on it, advanced threat protection blocks the link and clearly shows the user that the link is a malicious one. Finally, advanced threat protection's safe attachment feature, which again is in Microsoft 365 Business Premium, scans every attachment coming in via email. Email attachments are opened and tested in a virtual sandbox environment. If they are found to be malicious, the attachment will not be opened. Let's move on and discuss document-based security, which is all about, fundamentally, it's all about Azure Information Protection, AIP, and data loss prevention, DLP. Now, Azure Information Protection and data loss prevention allows you to create policies, templates, and rules to protect your corporate data. Azure Information Protection allows rules to be applied to documents and also to emails. For example, a policy for internal-only consumption can be applied to any files that have been tagged as company confidential documents, such as P&L reports or financial planning spreadsheets, etc. which prevents them from being sent outside the organization. Let's take an example, or let's use an example. Let's say my manager creates the latest company price list and classifies it as highly confidential. This essentially locks the document because it becomes automatically encrypted and only accessible to company employees. Now she shares that file with me, and when I try to open it, Microsoft 365 Business Premium will verify if I work for Bedrock and decrypt the file for me. Now let's say I save that document to a USB stick and get a job in another company. I'll leave Bedrock, for example. Even though I still physically have that company price list on this USB stick, it's useless to me because when I try to open the file, I'm unable to decrypt it since I'm no longer a Bedrock employee. Now, Azure Information Protection in itself is a great tool. I'm a great advocate of it, but it needs the users to be trained how to use it. And it's not an onerous process of a user tagging files as such if it's set up correctly. But what we can use is something called Azure Information Protection Plan 2, which actually uses machine learning to automatically apply rules based on the content of the file. Then the user's only interaction at that point from then on is to remove those rules if they don't apply or I need to change them for whatever reason. So it just automates it more for the organization as such. It becomes more consistent, I suppose, takes the user out of the whole process. Now finally, let's talk about data loss prevention, or DLP. Now DLP allows administrators to create rules around certain data types, for example credit card numbers. What if someone in your organization emailed a credit card number to someone they shouldn't have? The answer to that scenario would be to set up DLP rules which recognize this information in an email and prevents the user from sending it. DLP includes pre-configured templates that can help protect many specific types of sensitive information, such as credit card numbers, which we've talked about, but also personal identifiable information. But there are many others that come bundled that you could take advantage of as well. Let's change gears and check out how you can buy all of these great products, but at the same time protecting your business with the right level of cybersecurity and so on. Now, what we need to be looking at here is the three columns, which are the Microsoft M365 Business Premium, E3 and E5 SKUs towards the right-hand side of the screen there. Now, the E5 SKU is a bit rich, I think, will be for many organizations. But if you look at what you get with Microsoft 365 Business Premium, for example, you get advanced threat protection, Intune. I think it's a real value for money SKU. For that extra £6 above and beyond buying the Office 365 SKU, the additional security features should give you peace of mind. You might also find that you could turn off some other vendors' products based on the security features bundled in with Office with the M365 Business Premium. If so, then the £15.10 starts to look really good value. Let's look at Microsoft Business Voice. Licensing Microsoft Business Voice really boils down to two SKUs. On the left, you have what we call the full Business Voice SKU that includes the phone system, audio conferencing, and your domestic calling plan with 1,200 minutes per user per month. These calling plan minutes are pooled at a tenant level. So it's not a problem if one of your users exceeds their allotted 1,200 minutes, because there'll be other users that just don't use their minutes. Now on the right hand side is the Business Voice without calling plan, which will probably be referred to, or you might have come across referred to as direct routing. So what that enables you to do is bring over your existing SIP trunks and your calling plans from other telephony providers, but still using Teams as your app for all your calling capabilities. For some customers, Microsoft Calling Plan might seem expensive, or you might not, it doesn't offer the right level of integration with third-party CRM applications, for example. If that's the case, you'll start using, or you might use Gamma or 8x8 for their calling plans to make it more cost-effective and take advantage of their richer integration capabilities. Okay, let's start bringing this together and start to wrap up. We've talked about the Workplace 2021. We've talked about the SKUs you need. We've touched upon Teams. We touched upon Microsoft Voice, and we touched upon cybersecurity, which are all the core building blocks of this new post-COVID world, which gives you the flexibility but peace of mind to start working in this more flexible post-COVID world, which is great. But where do you start? Well, where you start could be using our Workplace 2021 high-level assessment. It's free, no obligations. What we do is look at where you are now, where you want to get to in terms of your post-COVID world, analysing your business from a Teams perspective, Microsoft Voice perspective, cybersecurity perspective, and come up with a plan, fully costed plan, and report that tells you how to get there. If you're interested, please get in contact by our email. You'll all have my email address, but my colleague Cara will be following up anyway. So if you're interested, great. If you're not, great too. And if you're not interested, then you might be interested in these opportunities to feed your brain some more. We've been running our summer webinar series focusing on Teams and cybersecurity, Microsoft Voice and so on. We've just coming to a conclusion on our first September event, which is the licensing models. We've got 2 further 30-minute webinars on the 22nd and later on the month, the Voice one. So collaboration, co-authoring, and the Teams Voice webinars. Again, feed your brain, look at the art of the possible, see what you should be doing with the investments in those technologies if you already are or considering them. Great webinars, very similar to today's. And if you've been attending previous webinars, then hopefully we'll see you on these follow-up ones as well. Separate to that, I think it's very important to understand it's not just about the technology, it's about your people as well. You're asking your people to work in different ways. Not working in the office or not working in the office 100%, but now working from home, being more flexible. And there's a lot of new skills your people have got to take on board. For example, how can I be productive working on my own? How do I overcome isolation and stress and so on? Very important that we address that. How do I become a remote meeting ninja? How do I maximize my productivity? How do I become a manager or an effective manager of a 100% remote team? And what technology should I be using at home, I have available to me at home? Now, so all this stuff is so important. It's not technology related, it's the soft stuff. But you've got to get that right, because it's no good just rolling out the technology. You've got to make sure your people are fired up to maximize their productivity. So please sign up to that webinar series, to that video series. I think there'll be some good value in there. Anyway, that's it for today. Hopefully you got some good value out of it. Have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you on one of our future webinars. Cheerio.